All right, let's try that again. Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Kurt, how you doing?
Hey, Dave. I've never been so glad to be wrong about a prediction in my life. Both you and I said Oilers in 7, and they finished them off in 5.
Yeah, 1-0 in an overtime victory. So, Kurt, we had a little internet trouble there. It might be at my end that it's a little slow here. Usually my internet's okay, so we'll see how this goes. We're live on Twitter. We were live on Twitter. If you lost us before, it's because one of our internets crashed. We're not exactly sure. When it says uploading on your side, what do you get? What do you see up there right now on your the upload percentage? Does it say that?
I'm not seeing upload anything. I'm getting a normal screen right now.
Okay. Kurt, that was one of the best, one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. One of the most intriguing hockey games, interesting hockey games I've ever seen. It was a true defensive struggle where every player had to be there on their best behavior on the ice. One mistake and you're done. The grade A shots were absolutely even in this game until the last flurry. 11 per team. With 3 5-alarm shots each. 3 5-alarm shots, like the Oilers usually get about 7, and the opposition usually get about 6 a game. Right. This was a really low event game. It was a chess match, but a brutal one. Like fought physically. Lots of hard hitting, some great goaltending, and the Oilers in the end got vengeance after losing in the 2023 playoffs to the Vegas Golden Knights. They revenged that tonight. I thought they were going to do it. Oh, is that right? I thought they were going to do it, but I thought it would take 7 games. We both did, but they got it done a little quicker. What did you think?
Well, I was thinking back to the many conversations we had over the course of this season, and we thought, maybe the Oilers aren't that team. Maybe they can't win 1-0 games and 2-1 games. And there was lots of evidence through the regular season that they couldn't. Right? They had a really difficult time this year putting their defensive game together. But this was, I'd say, first of all, it's easily their 2 best defensive games back-to-back this season. It might be their best 2 defensive games back-to-back in the last 5 years. I mean, can you think of 2 better, more complete defensive efforts against elite competition in back-to-back games than these 2? Because I can't.
Cool. Just getting a message saying, heads up, Kurt's recording has stopped due to an incoming call. Wonder what that is all about.
I would ignore all that stuff.
Okay, all right. You're not getting a phone call, are you? On your?
Nope, I did previously from you, so that's probably what it was.
All right. Hopefully everything is good still. Kurt, let's do 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. And because this is a big game, super huge win, obviously, we'll go with 2 good things each. What's your good thing?
My good thing is Leon Draisaitl, who I feel strongly was the Oilers' best skater tonight. We'll talk about the non-skater in a minute, I'm sure. Leon Draisaitl tonight assisted on the winning goal in overtime, played 22:58, terrific defensive hockey. You could see him marking his man every shift, like very responsible game. As we all know in Game 4, Chris Knobloch matched the Draisaitl lineup against the Eichel line. Well, tonight they did the same thing. Not quite to the same extent because, of course, Vegas had last change. They had home ice. But they still played a lot together, and Leon Draisaitl bossed that matchup again. Vegas's best player and top point getter was blanked. No points in back-to-back games. Leon Draisaitl tonight, 5-on-5, according to Natural Stat Trick. Scoring chances 9-5 and high dangers 6-2. He played 6:49 5v5 versus Eichel tonight. And Eichel, in those 6 minutes and 49 seconds, scoring chances were 4 in favor, 8 against, and high dangers 2 in favor, 4 against. And of course, that's not just all Leon. That's Vasily Podkolzin and Kasperi Kapanen as well. And for the most part, the pairing that was paired up against the Eichel line tonight was Nurse and Stetcher. That was the most common five-man unit against Jack Eichel tonight. Jack Eichel's a terrific player. I have a lot of admiration and respect for him. His two-way game has grown immeasurably. But in back-to-back games, Leon Draisaitl proved that he was the better two-way player of the two.
I don't know if I would go that far. Jack Eichel, man, he is such a great hockey player.
Well,
I I like them both. Like I'll say it's a soft. I just have so much respect for Eichel, but Leon came up huge when he was needed. I'm a little worried about him on the power play, Kurt. There's something wrong with his one timer. Like they're not even having him set up there all the time in his normal spot, and he doesn't seem to be able to get off that one timer with as much gusto, let's say, as in the past. I don't think he can get down low for some reason to get it off. Something's not quite right with him. But that said, man, he sure guts it out and plays strong hockey. And on the winning goal, there he was. It's my first good thing. Starts off with Jake Wallman in his own end, making a great stretch pass right up the ice to Podkolzin. And Vasily Podkolzin makes a play that I don't think he would have made in Vancouver last year, would have been capable or had the confidence to make. I mean, he's out there on the ice with Leon Draisaitl in overtime. He gets a pass at the offensive blue line, takes it in, and he takes his time. He finds time and space for himself with a few clever feints and makes a great pass over to find Leon Draisaitl. And that's exactly who you want to pass to, but he waited and he executed. So it's why he's being trusted and why he's been trusted all year on a line with Draisaitl, because he's getting better and better. I mean, he was the 10th overall pick in the draft one year and, you know, was taken because he was the best young offensive attacker in Russia, and he was a big guy with some tools. He's still very toolsy, and the skill is coming, right? The skill is coming, and he's a force out there. Great pass to Draisaitl, who makes then an even better pass. He holds up, kind of turns sideways and flips the puck, lofts the puck over to Darnell Nurse in the middle of the ice. It just opened the play right up. And all of a sudden, everyone in Vegas must just have been holding their breath, because here's Darnell Nurse with a clear lane for an outside shot. He puts it on net, and it gets through-ish, bounces to Kapanen at the side of the net, who gets the first shot on net. Draisaitl then charges in, and he gets a stick on the puck.
he does.
And I think a Vegas defender stops it with his own stick from going in. But third time pays for all, and Kapanen just keeps digging, keeps battling, and he puts it in the net. And it was a little bit delayed because you couldn't really see if it was going in or what was going to happen, but they started to celebrate. And you're thinking, like, there's been so many goals called back for this or that BS rubbish that you know, I start to wonder, like, oh, what's going to happen? But it did count. It was a fantastic moment. And Oiler fans must be, especially young fans, like older fans, we were through the glory years, right? We remember the Stanley Cups in the 1980s. We've had all kinds of great moments, and we've had some in the McDavid Draisaitl era, but young fans, like, if this is your first time through these are the great moments. This was the, you know, the overtime winner, and great play by the Oilers.
Yeah, quick comments on three players. You know, Vasily Podkolzin ostensibly was brought into this organization because they lost Dylan Holloway. And while Dylan Holloway went on to have a terrific season with the St. Louis Blues, and I'm happy for him, as you know, I was always a big fan of Dylan Holloway. But Vasily Podkolzin is proving his worth in these playoffs, and he's built for playoff hockey, right? He's a rough and tumble guy. He's really good in the heavy going, but on plays like that, you can see his skill as well. Leon Draisaitl, big players show up for big games, man. You know, I already talked a lot about Leon, but that's a fact, right? You know, you wonder why Toronto can't get past the second round. Well, their big players don't show up when it's really important. Leon Draisaitl did tonight. And finally, Kasperi Kapanen. This is a guy that was off just about everybody's radar 2 games ago. Like he was a member of the Black Aces. Like nobody saw this guy coming in. If someone was coming out, I think everybody thought Jeff Skinner would have gone in. But Kapanen went on and just had a tremendous game 4. And while I don't think he was as impactful in game 5, no one's going to remember that. All they're going to remember is the winning goal. So yeah, a pretty amazing sequence and a pretty historic one for this organization as well as we go back to the Final Four.
Yeah, Kapanen was a bit iffy. There was a few times when he was out of position in the game, and I'll tell you, Kurt, you really notice it in a game like this if a player's out of position, because most of them were not out of position, and you couldn't really afford to be out of position. So it didn't happen very often, but I did notice it a few times with Kapanen that he wasn't quite as aware as some of the other forwards on the ice. But yeah, what a massive goal! I gave him a bonus grade of 3 full marks.
Good for you.
I mean, overtime winner, a winning goal, overtime winner, series clinching. That's 3 bonus marks, so he got an 8. So
cool. I like that.
Kurt, what is your second good thing?
I'm going to pick one player that epitomizes the Oilers' commitment to defense tonight. And it's one thing to say you're going to play good defense. The Oilers said that all year and didn't. But here they are in the playoffs in their 2 most important games of the season. And they win both by shutouts. And I think it was the Oilers' leadership that really grabbed the bull by the horns and said, follow us, we're going to win this thing. And I think Leon Draisaitl was a tour de force defensively in both games. But I want to pick out a play in the first period that I thought set the tone defensively for the Oilers tonight. Vegas was breaking in on one of what was a very few number of 2-on-1s for either squad tonight.
Yeah.
And it looked like a dangerous chance. I was holding my breath. And then out of nowhere, like a flash, comes Connor McDavid, comes in, breaks up the play, and then spills heavily into the boards. Sat there dazed for a little while and, kind of wobbled off kind of slowly, talked to the trainer for quite a while. Turned out he was fine. Maybe he got the wind knocked out of him. I think he cut his lip a little bit. Thank goodness he was okay. But you know what? When your best player and your captain puts his body on the line to make a defensive play like that, it doesn't leave any excuses for anybody else on your squad. And I just thought it set the tone early and everybody followed his lead.
It was a fantastic back check. I mean, he was almost a full zone behind when it started. And not only from him, from Hyman, both of them came in and sandwiched the shooter, Olofsson. So he couldn't get off his shot. It was a tremendous, just exactly what the Oilers needed to set the tone. Everyone on the bench would have noticed that.
Yep.
And, as if they didn't need more encouragement, that was more encouragement, and it was a fantastic play. Kurt, my second good thing is Stuart Skinner. Second shutout in a row. And tonight, he really looked like hot Stu Skinner on a winning streak. This might continue. He looked so confident in net, which he tends to. He's just, when he is on, he is so solid, squaring up to the shooter, so big in the net. Seems to move really well. And again, I think if he's playing behind a team that keeps the shots from coming in front of him rather than side to side, stop that side to side action. Stu Skinner looks great. Allow the side to side action or a lot of plays out from behind the net. Stu Skinner doesn't look so good.
I think that's fair.
So it's really incumbent on the team. You can win a Stanley Cup with Stuart Skinner. You've got to play championship defense, as I call it. You've got to limit odd man rushes. And if the Oilers do that, if they decide to do that, they will win the Stanley Cup this year. I think they're deciding. I think we're seeing a team that's made a decision to win the Stanley Cup. And, a lot can happen with injury and such, but do they ever give themselves a great spot right now? Because we don't know how long the other series is going to last. They're going to have at least one extra day of rest compared to the other team.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll have 3, or maybe they'll have 5. So there's a lot of good came out of that win, not just eliminating a very dangerous and difficult team, but Stu Skinner has turned it around. There's nobody, like, everyone's thinking, okay, He's your starter. The starter has come through. That was as good as an Oiler goalie has looked all playoffs. Maybe Pickard in his last win was close to that, but there was, as I was saying, how many grade A shots for the other team? 11 grade A shots. You'd expect about, and 3 of them 5 alarmers, you'd expect probably about 2 or 3 goals on that amount of shots. And he didn't let in one. So way to go, Stu Skinner.
Yeah, he looked super solid and confident tonight, as opposed to the first 2 games back where I still saw him swimming around in the crease a little bit. I didn't see any of that tonight. He really, he seemed really square to the shooter all night long. Couple bigger thoughts. One, now not only are you getting a little extra rest waiting for that next series, but now you've got 2 red hot goaltenders that you can choose from. I'm with you. I think you go with your guy who's essentially your starter anyway. But
when you're in.
But you got Stuart Skinner with back-to-back shutouts, and you got Calvin Pickard who's won 6 straight. Like, we went into the playoffs. You and I know this. We talked about it in our podcast. That I wonder if the goaltending will hold up. Well, shit, man, the goaltending's been good.
Kurt, it has. It has. Like it's all. I think it's largely like. It's a big function of the defensive play in front of them, including inserting Troy Stetcher really to settle down the defense pairings, right? And I was looking back at I recommended it at the start of this, before this series started. You may have talked about it on the podcast. I wrote about it in a post. It's, they should consider putting in Troy Stetcher. Mm-hmm. And I got more and more adamant after every single game of the series until it happened. But that was a big moment. And Stetcher just makes plays that Ty Emerson can't right now and doesn't. Just speed plays with the puck, heady plays with the puck. Kurt, let's move on to our bad things. What's your bad thing in the game?
My bad thing was the ice at T-Mobile in Vegas tonight. Not only did it look bad when you watched it on TV, but the commentators were talking about it. I know Louis at one point from the sidelines was talking about the puck bouncing around and how as the game went on, the ice was getting progressively worse. I also heard from 2 people that I know who were in the rink tonight, and both of them, well, one of them specifically said, Kurt, it was like being at the basketball game. Like every play, both teams, the puck was just bouncing and sticking and sliding funny. And when you watch some of the replays, like the 2 best chances Leon Draisaitl had tonight before the overtime, in both cases, the puck was just doing the chicken on his stick. And he's normally one of the best puck handlers on the team. But I noticed the same thing with Jack Eichel, who's certainly the best puck handler on Vegas. And I thought the conditions slowed him down as well. In what was a terrific hockey game, an elimination hockey game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What a shame that a major facility can't come up with a better ice surface for the 2 teams to play on than they did. Yeah. It got in the way of what was otherwise a fabulous hockey game.
I like that, doing the chicken. And speaking of chickens, Kurt, tonight I had this is what they're selling in Edmonton. The emotional support chicken.
Oh, I don't know if you told me about this. Yeah.
I got my wife got a couple of them, and she was actually able to watch the 3rd period for the first time in years because of the emotional support chicken.
Awesome.
Although she missed overtime, but we got a couple. They're really super cute. All right. My bad thing was the 3rd period, and we've heard from other teams, other fan bases, when the Oilers have come on in games, started to dominate the game and won, that they felt that their team was too timid and not really trying to win it, was backing up. And it's interesting when this happens. The grade A shots in the 3rd period were 7-2 for Vegas. Mm-hmm. And McNabb almost scored. He came bursting into the slot and deked around Bouchard and almost scored. So there was some dangerous moments, and Stu Skinner essentially gave the Oilers a chance to win that game with his play in the 3rd period. It's interesting, but I don't think I'm going to accuse the Oilers of not wanting to win. I just think the desperation of level of Vegas in that moment was off the charts. It was the most desperate hockey they would have played all year. And they had the adrenaline. They were going for it. And the Oilers, as much as they wanted to, they couldn't jack it up. They couldn't get it going. They needed to get to the overtime period. And when that happened, the Oilers took over. But in that third period, and it's, again, I'm not blaming the Oilers, but it was a bad thing in that Edmonton very nearly lost that game, could have easily lost that game because Vegas was just coming and coming and coming with the grade A shots and the aggression, the forecheck, doing everything right. Edmonton, there was a sequence of about 10 minutes where Edmonton would get the puck out and get to the red line, maybe get over the red line, and they couldn't dump it deep. They couldn't get it deep. It was play after play after play where forwards on the Oilers failed to get the puck deep. And it was starting to drive me crazy. Like, can't one of you guys get the puck deep so we can get in there and forecheck? But they didn't. And it was just Vegas was on them, taking away time and space constantly. And the Oilers were reeling around the ring, but they kept on their feet and they won the game.
Well, if you were going to ask me before the third period who I thought was going to come up with the big push in the third period, I would have said Vegas before the period even started because they were one of the two teams that if they lose, they're going home.
Yeah.
Right. It's you mentioned desperation. Yeah. I think that's it. There was no reason for them to leave anything on the ice because they were desperate. They had to win. Right. Whereas the Oilers, my read on the Oilers, and I don't disagree with your observations on pucks deep and the number of indiscretions that they did have in the third period, despite playing an overall strong game. But I think they understood that they were going to play a tight defensive game, and they were going to take their opportunities when they came to them. And they didn't push in the third period. I think they stayed within their structure and waited Vegas out. And they waited them out to the point that it was 0-0 after 3 and they went to overtime. And I think that was the difference between the two.
They hardly went to McDavid Draisaitl on the same line. There was one shift they did, I think it might have been in the second period. And right after that shift, Nugent Hopkins came out for a shift with Kapanen and Podkolzin. And there was 2 grade A shots against the Oilers on that particular shift when Nugent was centering those 2 guys. And I thought, it just struck me that it was the one little mistake in the game where they were just trying to score all of a sudden. I think first Stetcher got caught up ice, and there was a rush back, and they got a grade A shot. And then just let me see if I can find this.
For the most part, Knobloch rolled 4 lines. Not equally, but his lines, you're right, they did shuffle a couple times, but for the most part, those 4 units stayed together.
Yeah, this was fairly early. Yeah, but then he went right back to them, Knobloch. He went, and in overtime, he kept Draisaitl with Podkolzin and Kapanen, right?
Yeah.
And they got the winning goal.
Yeah.
So the coach, I think, recognized that maybe that was a bit too aggressive. Like, you put Draisaitl and McDavid together, that's sending the wrong message in a way. It's like, oh, we're going to try to score. Now we're going back to the old Oilers who stack up a line and try to do everything they can to score. And that doesn't always work. This really worked, sticking with the lines that they had, running each of the lines fairly consistently. So I was impressed with that. Your number?
My number, 0-0. The Oilers, until tonight, had not played a game all season that they went into the third period tied at 0.
Wow.
And of course, and this is something you mentioned to me off the air as well, is that also, of course, translated into the overtime period. But yeah, it's the first time all year, regular season and playoffs, that they went into the third period tied at 0. And I use the number because, again, kind of like the McDavid back check, I thought it epitomized the defensive mindset and effort that the club put into the win tonight.
Yeah, it was weird not to have a goal
Yeah.
And when we got to overtime and there was no goal, at first I thought, what's the score? I was like, no, but there's no score.
There is no score.
Nobody's. That is so strange. It just felt so bizarre as a fan of the Edmonton Oilers to go into the overtime. I don't know, like, it's just not this team, but it is this team. It's becoming this team. To win a 0-0 game in regulation in overtime, that's a massive accomplishment for this team, for the McDavid-Draisaitl era Oilers to do that. They did it, though, and they did it on merit. So good. What a great performance. What a great defensive performance. And Knobloch deserves a ton of credit, as do all the players and the goalie, obviously. My number is one of the guys who deserves credit, Zach Hyman, 13 hits.
Yeah.
I mean, he had like 50-some hits all season, 60-some hits all season. He's got more hits in the playoffs than he's had all season.
Crazy.
He is going for it. He is playing his heart out.
Yeah. Best
He's healthy right now. You can see that he's pretty healthy. And this is he's not piling up the playoff points, but he is piling up the playoff hits. He's great with Connor McDavid.
Yep.
He is a great defensive hockey player. His, like, in terms of like scoring, grade A shots created as opposed to made mistakes on, he is out of this world good in these playoffs. Like, he's made like 2 or 3 mistakes on grade A shots, and he's contributed to about 40.
Wow.
Individually.
What a spread.
He and Corey Perry are crushing it as two-way players. They're the two guys who stand out the most. As for wingers, I should say.
Right.
With McDavid and Draisaitl. And all of the centers, McDavid, Draisaitl, Henrique, and Nuge are all doing well in this regard in terms of their ratio of grade A shots to mistakes on grade A shots against, and Bouchard and Wallman and Klingberg and Kulak. Those are the guys all crushing it. But Hyman, if the Toronto Maple Leafs wonder what went wrong with their franchise, and it's not to say they can't pull out of this, the day that the genius Kyle Dubas let Zach Hyman go, that was a big moment, a big day in that franchise's history. They never should have done that. Yep. That was a colossal screw up. I mean, we've had them in oil. Like, every team has them, right? And I'm not trying to rub it in on Maple Leaf fans. I like Maple Leafs. I like the Maple Leafs. I like their fans. But I always thought that the legend of Kyle Dubas was kind of silly. Like, you know, he got a high draft pick or two. He made good on them. But what did he really do with that team? And he turned it into a non-physical team. It was one of the things he did, and one of those moves was saying goodbye to Zach Hyman, who just is such a fantastic power forward for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, the Oilers have assembled a group now, Kurt, of power forwards. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl kind of qualify when they want to, but there's Podkolzin, Kane, Perry, Connor Brown. Well, he's not overly physical, but he is overly aggressive. He's super aggressive. Frederick.
Yep.
Janmark in the playoffs is always super aggressive. Adam Henrique in the playoffs is super aggressive. This is a really aggressive, hard-nosed bunch of veteran forwards on the Edmonton Oilers. And Zach Hyman is certainly one of them. He is a leader of them. And it's great to see him succeeding in this year's playoffs so far. All right. We're on to the next. Go ahead. What do you got?
I got a few quick hitters.
Okay.
Kasperi Kapanen's first goal since January 26th.
Yeah.
Brett Kulak played 24-50 tonight, 25 shifts.
Good player. Really good player.
Yep. Chris Knobloch is, in his career as the Oilers head coach, this according to Bob Stopper, 16-2 from games 4 through 7. 16-2.
Yeah. This win, like, he's got to win a cup to become in the upper echelon of NHL coaches.
That's fair.
But this really separates him from, let's say, Jay Woodcroft, right? Who didn't have playoff success 2 years running, like real success. Like, he didn't get by Vegas. Chris Knobloch just did. Woodcroft never got to the final. Knobloch did. So the thing I like about him is he has a profound understanding of the amount of pressure the players are under and the amount of support that they need. Everything he says is thoughtful and supportive of his players. I have not seen him throw a player under the bus once. He doesn't carp about them. He doesn't criticize them even obliquely. Like he is always framing things in a supportive way. And this is like 50 years ago, a coach like this would have been laughed out of the NHL, someone who talked like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But 50 years ago, there might not have been the pressure on these players either. Like, it's a different world. And I think they need having this kind of support from the coach in a pressure cooker like Edmonton, I think goes a long way. He doesn't add to it. He doesn't add to the crazy. He reduces it, and he gets those players playing sane hockey as well. It's an incredible rational game that the Oilers play,
including his manner on the bench. Right?
Yes.
It's we've all played for that coach, and I can't think of too many players who enjoyed playing for that coach. Certainly, Chris Knobloch is the new NHL model of coaching, and you know what? If the Oilers do finally do it this year, cross your fingers. You may see other franchises, because the NHL is a copycat league. We'll see other franchises opting for a coach in that vein as well.
Yeah, maybe there's lots out there. I don't know. But good luck finding them. Like he's a very interesting coach. I mean, Woodcroft was also pretty calm. Like, to give him credit, like he was a very calm guy. But I just see it even more with Knobloch. Like just it's his fundamental relationship with his players is one of support, and it's in everything he does. And I don't think I've seen that. He's not chippy with them. He's not caustic at all. He's just really just there for them. So seems to go a long way.
So now we wait and see who we play.
Yeah, looks like Dallas. They're up 3-1.
Yeah, Winnipeg can't win a road game in the playoffs. So, and their goaltender can't make a save. And
Dallas has now got Heiskanen back.
Yeah.
And hell of a series coming up.
And
series.
I am hearing that it is not just possible, but quite likely that Matthias Ekholm will play in this upcoming series. Not necessarily start, but will play at some point in the series, and that is encouraging. And look, I still say that after back-to-back shutouts. You still, if you have Matthias Ekholm, you put him in the lineup. I don't think there's any question about it.
Well, if he's 100%, like, you don't have to rush him. Put it that way. You don't have to rush him back. If you're winning, see how it goes. Because this lineup, it's pretty good. 2 shutouts in a row and 2 really solid defensive efforts.
I disagree with that a little bit. I think he's your best two-way defenseman, and as soon as he is capable of playing, you put him in. Because I think it's highly unlikely he'll be 100%.
I've seen defensemen come back too early injured. I've seen injured defensemen like Tanev in other years, Darnell Nurse in other years, and they do not do their teams any favors. He better be mobile and ready to play, is what I'm saying, before I would take anybody out. That's how I see it. If he's not ready, don't do it. So
yeah,
we saw him come back this regular season. He wasn't ready, and he didn't look very good at all. So
yeah. Well, we'll agree to disagree in this one, and it'll be an interesting conversation when it does or doesn't play out. Right, and let's see how they and how he handle it. So,
yeah, everything changes if you lose a couple games, of course, too, right?
Yes, it does. What's that? Mike Tyson said everything's until you get punched in the face. It's yeah.
Alrighty, Kurt. Thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, it was fun.
And in the meantime, and in between times, and until we meet again, Bruce McCurdy, never in doubt. Never in doubt. In the Hall of Our Fathers, having a cool one with the Hockey Gourds, who were certainly on the Oilers' side tonight.
Indeed.
This has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.